Hey, this is Notser, and this is a user replay. GM Schwartz is in the Tier 8 American Battleship Alabama on the map North, and this is going to be a standoff. The game is very interesting, entertaining, not the highest level of play from either side. There's not a lot of team coordination. There's not a lot of flanking. This is a brute force situation. This is what tankers and their heavy tanks, when they come from World of Tanks, this is how they play the game. This is what I would imagine. This is just, it's very interesting, and hopefully you're as intrigued. I know that some people are just like, oh god, this isn't like Unicum level of skill. No, it's definitely a learning experience, and hopefully everyone benefits from watching it. I certainly was perplexed by the entire process, and I questioned who I was. And I think those are good questions to ask when you've watched something like this. So let's just get right into it. So, GM Schwartz, his entire team clearly decided to go B. And on that same coin, the enemy team clearly all decided, let's go B. So we've got this weird situation. Oh, nice broadside. I don't know why the North Carolina is completely broadside. And I don't know why not every battleship on Schwartz's team isn't focusing their firepower. Where the team call out, guys. This is absolutely an issue. And this isn't the first game. This won't be the last game. You've got to communicate to your team what your intentions are so someone else can follow up and multiply your effectiveness. That's why divisions are so powerful, because you get that free multiplication. So, Schwartz gets a good broadside on the North Carolina, who's out in the open. Seems that a friendly cruiser, I think the Edinburgh for the North Carolina, is able to smoke him out. Benson is, of course, in an awkward position because he's forward, and yet he's captured the base for their team. He's got to pull back. It's a really weird situation where this cruiser wants to kill the Benson. And I would say that if the cruiser could kill the Benson, it's worth his life, because the destroyer is a much more valuable unit for his team's success than a cruiser. But the cruiser's pushing forward into 4 battleships that are bow on. He has no chance. He has no chance at all. And his torpedoes just missed the Benson, and he's going to go broadside, and hopefully Schwartz, well, no, friendly takes him out. I'm very confused already. You know, this is just a standoff, battleships. Why doesn't someone try and get on the flank and reposition the enemy? Maybe punish this Bismarck's bow on, this Tirpitz is moving, the North Carolina sort of stopped abruptly in his pursuit to the easternmost point, and he's completely in the open, completely broadside. Not a single call out to focus that North Carolina, guys. Friendly Benson's dead, so now they've lost the advantage. The enemy has a clear advantage. That Benson on the enemy team could run rampant over this entire position. This is what dreams are made of if you're a destroyer. Seeing 4 and 5 battleships bow on, sitting there in a standoff with your team. The Benson should absolutely try and get on the flank of Schwartz's team and send those torpedoes to punish the hell out of them. And, well, there we go. Benson has done at least something that I would assume is the correct approach. That's my approach. I would go after. I think that's the right play. He's able to get a broadside, yet no call out, guys. Concentrate your firepower. Does everyone remember that hotkey? We've got to press F3 by default. F4 is affirmative, or Wilco. And if you fire on this guy, the North Carolina is going to die, guys. I mean, it's clear he's out in the open, sluggish. Even with everyone's bad dispersion, someone's going to hit him, and someone's going to get damage on the target. But that North Carolina is allowed to retreat behind an island. And it seemed like Schwartz was the only one wanting to fire on him. Bah! It's okay, it's okay. It's a learning experience for everyone. Learning what not to do. So Schwartz, moving forward a little bit, looks like a couple friendlies are concerned about the Benson, and they should be because of the torpedoes that recently came. And if they can't fire on them, sure, fire on them. But we still got bow on targets, and not a lot's going on. You know, this is like a parking lot. What's going on, guys? Come on. So it looks like Schwartz was attempting to discourage the bow on with HE, which is appropriate. Everyone would have to, of course, work together. And in doing so, he loaded it right at the worst time because there was cruisers, broadside battleships, but he didn't want to waste the HE. And I know many of us have found ourselves in a situation similar where it's like, damn it, if I had AP, I could have punished that. And then it just teaches you to never load anything but HE, unless, of course, you do 7, 8, 10,000 damage and you're British, but regardless. So he reloads AP, Friendly does about half the damage to Edinburgh, Schwartz does the other half, and they punish that cruiser who's out in the open, freely sailing. It's just... This North Carolina, guy, this is really annoying. We have to focus as North Carolina people. Yeah, sure, it's a long shot, but pretty much everyone's a battleship in this game. Look, there's only one cruiser left. Everyone has range on this guy. Come on. Come on. Just do it. Concentrate your firepower. Focus him. He's going to fire at the waterline. Hopefully get a citadel. And it does look like the North Carolina is backing up, so he does lead him in the rear. He's taking secondary fire from the Bismarck, and he's been set on fire multiple times. He had to use his damage control, and this is actually significant damage. Schwartz could die. Got friendlies coming in. Friendly Bismarck's right behind him. And the enemy is, I believe, they're at least trying to fire on the Alabama. And they're not really doing a good job, right? We got the Bismarck, who's got his secondaries going. I would hazard to guess he's not using anything like manual secondary. It just doesn't seem to be doing a lot of damage. I could be misinterpreting it. The enemies are missing their location. They're hitting the guns. They're hitting every part of the ship except for the superstructure with their AP, so they're not doing any damage. And this is just slowing the game down further. But Schwartz is down 100,000. He should absolutely have the broadside of this Bismarck. And he elevates the gun because it's German. You're not really getting the Citadel. He gets 10,000. Anytime you fire at a German, there is sort of this risk. If you go waterline, yeah, sure, some shells are going to hit, but plus or minus, some shells are going to dip into the water. So most players will raise it to the top of the hull in order to engage the German. For whatever reason, this Bismarck has taken a ton of damage. He started with more health than Schwartz, and Schwartz has been allowed to survive the enemy North Carolina, just freely firing in the open. And I am just completely baffled by the lack of team-coordinated callouts. But Schwartz does get a nice broadside. Look, if the North Carolina or the Bismarck or anyone else was firing at this North Carolina, and finally, there's a concentrate firepower on the North Carolina. If we had multiple battleships firing on one target, they would die so quickly. The enemy's team doing the same stupid thing, though. Both sides are, do a little damage here, do a little damage there. Yeah, it's nice to farm damage, but you know what else is nice? Farming the win, and you win battles by taking out targets. There's been so much time in this standoff that an enemy Bismarck now can get to the flank, and he should be able to punish this North Carolina, potentially Schwartz, who, thankfully for him, is behind the island, and that makes it more challenging for the Bismarck. But the Bismarck could absolutely be super brutish and aggressive. Take out the enemy Bismarck right here, you know, the Schwartz teammate, then go to Schwartz. They could clearly see his health because these battleships have been detected the entire time. I don't know what the Benson is doing. And these two guys are just running into each other. So it's a really awkward game. And I have played in games similar to this, and they've driven me absolutely insane. The lack of team incentive. I think this, more than anything else, there needs to be something even more profound than call-outs for focus fire. There has to be something that the team, the player base, will respond to in order to move it towards a more team-oriented baseline game. I can't tell you how many times I'm presented with a similar situation where it's like 3 versus 3, and both sides are just firing at the most convenient target for them. They're not firing for the team. They're not working together. It's disheartening. So this Bismarck's got his secondaries going. I think this particular Bismarck is absolutely not manual secondary. His secondaries seem to be firing at pretty much everything. I don't really like that build with the Bismarck for this very reason. If you don't get close, you're not really going to hit anything. And the Benson has sent torpedoes, which is he going to avoid? No, he takes one on the nose. He takes two. He takes one on the nose and he takes one on the port side, just barely. He's able to stop the flood, but his day is done. Friendly Tirpitz takes out the enemy Tirpitz that held that corner for so long. And I think this is the last moment of Schwartz. Yes, of course it is. So we here see that Schwartz's team has an advantage point-wise. However, the enemy team has a Benson and a Bismarck. And the Benson can keep the enemy battleships spotted. Grumpy and XP Go, they will be spotted for the entire game. So the enemy Benson and the enemy Bismarck can really dictate the pace of the game, theoretically. If I was the Benson, I would merely try and shadow these battleships and go take B. I think the best thing you can do is force them to try and defend their point while also feeling the urgency to maybe compensate by taking A. Because if the Benson gets into B point, he's going to stop that capture. And it's going to take either the Tirpitz or the North Carolina a good amount of time to push him off of it, and they still won't reveal his position. So in doing that, you have, in essence, won the game without putting any of your ships in harm's way, because the friendly Bismarck for that Benson would just merely rotate around the island with his aircraft out and avoid line of sight the entire time. He didn't have to risk the ship. But that's not what he's choosing to do. What he's choosing to do is to back up into a position where he can fire broadside on the enemy North Carolina. Now, he does have a health advantage. But did you see what the Benson's doing? The Benson is also going back towards A point. So it's going to end up being a 2 versus 2. However, this North Carolina is so far ahead of his friendly Tirpitz, he's going to go 1 versus 2 for a short amount of time. And I don't really like those odds. Plus, he's got HE loaded. HE would have worked out much better if it wasn't a perfectly broadside Bismarck, if it was a bow on. It's an interesting choice, and I could see what he was thinking. Maybe he was thinking that the Bismarck would just refuse to show any angle, but he had to have seen it, because I think they had their aircraft up before it was shot down. Enemy Benson sends his torpedoes, and the North Carolina takes damage. And he's going to die to that dot. Instead of firing his HE, though, at the Benson, he continues to fire at the Bismarck, even though there's a Benson that is 4 kilometers away. I hope that everyone understands that that Benson was the correct target. And I know many people have made this mistake, but I just want to reiterate. Take out the destroyer. Please, take out the destroyer. If you can fire on him, and you should be able to hit that destroyer if he's within 10 kilometers, you should do it. Who gives a crap about the damage output? Taking out the ship itself is worth far more than the damage you would farm on that battleship. And you still gotta win the game. So the friendly Tirpitz, with his secondary build, is engaging these 2 targets. He is, however, stopping the capture. And This is a case that the enemy is all in on the objective of killing the turrets, rather than playing to win the game. And if you look like, the turrets just barely was unable to move it in their favor. Now there's this weird situation where the delay in the capture mechanic makes either side go back and forth, and the turrets is just trying to gain distance. And I think at this point he has to commit to not dying. And all the enemy team has to do, all that Bismarck has to do, is go to B point. That's all they have to do. The Benson could literally keep the turrets spotted the entire time while the Bismarck goes directly towards B point. It's a 30-knot ship. He will more than adequately reach B point. And I don't know who's going to win. This game is so weird. Look at this. Look at the tick rate. Even the call-out's weird. You know, victory is close. Victory is close. Victory is close, because it keeps going back and forth. Just, victory is in sight. Yeah, victory is in sight. Yeah, victory is in sight. So Grumpy doing the right thing. He's retreating.
Our victory is in sight.
I think victory's in sight, guys. And I'm not sure who's going to win. This is a 50-50. They played the entire game out, and it's literally 50-50. But I do think that Schwartz's team will come out on top. If it's 9 points, yeah, the enemy team's not going to get there. I think they've done it. I think somehow they've won this game, and they didn't do anything to change the outcome. It was literally just a coin toss. Like, you could have not played the match and had a coin toss. So, yes, it is. Look how close this game is. If Grumpy would have stayed one less second in the enemy capture, they would have lost the game. It was such a waste of a game from a contribution standpoint. It was just all dumb luck. And that's not what we want from these games. Whenever we play any game, we want to have a meaningful impact on it and play the objective. Try and protect the flank of your team. Focus your firepower. Those are going to help you out, and those would have helped either side out. I mean, clearly the enemy Bismarck, he wasn't trying to play the objective, he was trying to get kills. And, you know, that's cute. But this is ranked play. Who cares about kills? You got to win the game. Because that star is going away if you don't. So I just wanted to share this game for a lot of reasons. I hope it was entertaining. I hope that everyone can learn from it. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.